Coming up on today's show, Ben Simmons for James Harden trade rumors are back, and could Philadelphia deal away 2-5 to the New Orleans Pelicans for Brandon Ingram? But first, Philadelphia 76ers now by Chat Sports is popping off. The views have been crazy. At this point, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? We are 25 people away from honoring the great Allen Iverson, and we've been pushing out more content because the channel continues to hum. So if you want more content like this, hit that red subscribe button down below, and let's start today's show. Welcome into Philadelphia 76ers now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. We start off today's show with getting into the latest whispers around the Ben Simmons trade front, and could Daryl Morey trade away Ben Simmons for the apple of his eye, who is James Harden? Let's explore it. This most recent report coming from Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report. He, of course, wrote a book about the Philadelphia 76ers during the Sam Hinkie era. He said this about Harden potentially going to Philadelphia, which I actually don't think is all too realistic. Quote, "If a strong enough deal for Simmons never comes to Philadelphia this season, there have been ongoing whispers about a free agency sign-and trade for Simmons that would allow Harden to join forces with Embiid and rejoin Daryl Morey. For now, Brooklyn stands atop the Eastern Conference, and moving Harden for Simmons makes little sense for Sean Marks' brain trust, especially as Kyrie Irving remains inactive." Now, there are new developments on the Kyrie Irving front. He has been speaking with Kevin Durant over the last couple of weeks, going over game film. There is belief that he could rejoin the Brooklyn Nets at some point this season. Of course, it all comes down to his vaccination status. And now in Philadelphia, you must be vaccinated in order to attend indoor events. So that would kind of change things in Philadelphia as well. We know this to be true. James Harden, as I mentioned, is the apple of Daryl Morey's eye. He traded for him when he was running basketball operations for the Houston Rockets, and Houston was able to have a bevy of postseason success. Back in 2018, I thought Houston should have beaten the Golden State Warriors and made it to the NBA Finals. If Chris Paul doesn't injure his hamstring, I think that series could have ended up differently, and we'd be talking about the James Harden-Daryl Morey era in a different way. I just think there's no way, as Jake Fisher reported, that a James Harden-Nets trade does happen this year. The Nets are atop the Eastern Conference right now after a pretty sluggish and slow start on the Harden front. He has played better basketball of late. Kevin Durant might be the front runner for MVP alongside Steph Curry, who Matisse Thybulle put the clamps on, in addition to the Joker out in Denver because he's balling out coming off the MVP season last year. The Nets are true title contenders this year. So it just doesn't make any sense for Sean Marks and the crew to trade away James Harden for Ben Simmons, although I do think Ben Simmons would be a nice fit alongside Kevin Durant. This is the issue for the Sixers this year. Given how the Sixers played against the Miami Heat in front of the home crowd at the Wells Fargo Center in South Philly last night, it is just, the evidence is overwhelming right now. Daryl Morey needs to make a deal because this Sixers team right now is not good enough to compete for a championship. But Joel Embiid is in the thick of his prime years. He needs a co-star to maximize his prime years and for the Sixers to have a great opportunity to compete in the Eastern Conference this year. He can't do it all himself. Yes, Tyrese Maxey was balling out against the Miami Heat, but you can't rely on him night in and night out, and don't even get me started on Tobias Harris, a nice guy who's a nice player who is grossly overpaid. Elton Brand with that contract a couple of years ago, absolutely brutal. As for what James Harden is doing this year, the numbers from last year certainly down after he was traded away from the Rockets to the Brooklyn Nets, and without Kevin Durant last year, James Harden was in the MVP conversation, but then he injured that hamstring, which kind of took him away from it. 20.8 points per game. He's always going to rebound the basketball very well considering his size for a guard. His usage rate is crazy. 9.5 assists per night as well. But his turnover rate, one of the highest marks of his career. I also want to take a look at the shooting numbers for James Harden because those are down as well. Let's take a look at the shooting splits. Field goal attempts per game up to around 15 right now. He's only shooting a little north of 40% from the deck. and less than 34% from distance, which for him, given the volume, is just okay. And on two-point attempts, he's knocking down those at about a 47% percentile. I do worry about James Harden aging, and I've always worried about the style of play being conducive to winning in the playoffs because his offensive game is always predicated on getting contact, getting to the free throw line, and getting some of those foul calls. But because some of the rule changes have been made this year, catering more to defense and taking away from those ticky-tack fouls, I worry about how James Harden is going to age, especially considering he's never been in the best shape. He's never put forward the most effort in terms of him working on his body like the LeBron Jameses of the world. And the playoff no-shows for Harden have been absolutely killer. There's no question about that. When he gets into the playoffs, that style isn't conducive to making deep runs. He doesn't always get those calls because playoff basketball is a little bit more physical, and he's never really been able to come through in the clutch to put the team on his back to carry them throughout a momentous playoff run. So would you be hesitant to trade for James Harden, given all the reasons that I just laid out there for you? Type H for yes, I would be hesitant because I'm not sure about how the player ages. Type G for go for it. You got to give Joel Embiid a co-star. Be sure to get those votes in the comment section right now. Christmas is right around the corner. It's crazy how quickly it is coming. And if you haven't done your holiday shopping, we have you hooked up thanks to our friends at Fanatics. This 76ers hoodie was $65, now on sale $32.50. 50% off, only if you use that link down below. It's chatsports.com/76hoodie. That link is going to be available in the description as well as the comment section so that you can treat yourself or somebody who you care about with Christmas right around the corner. Next up on today's show, Ben Simmons to the New Orleans Pelicans. Is there anything on that front that could possibly come to fruition? Hoops Hype reporting that Philadelphia and New Orleans have had some conversations about a Ben Simmons trade to the Pelicans, and I'm not doing this deal unless it includes Brandon Ingram. Quote from Hoops Hype and the report from Hoops Hype, I heard the Pelicans discuss trading future first-round picks and pick swaps with the 76ers for Ben Simmons, league sources told Hoops Hype. Brandon Ingram was not involved in the talks, I'm told, at least as of now. With Zion Williamson's latest injury setback, it's unclear how that could move the needle for the Pelicans in their efforts to land Simmons. Hey, this is what it comes down to for me. You offer Ingram for Ben Simmons and you have my interest. And it really piques my interest because I think that Brandon Ingram would be able to solve some of the 76ers' flaws right now, and he doesn't clash positionally with Tyrese Maxey. So you look at a starting five that would include Tyrese Maxey still running the point, Brandon Ingram as your go-to bucket getter, Joel Embiid, and then you kind of mix and match from there. Maybe you still remain on to Tobias Harris, although he is really having a maddening season up to this point. The New Orleans Pelicans, folks, are an absolute dumpster fire. I think they're the worst team by far in the NBA. The future of Zion Williamson is really in question. If I'm New Orleans right now, considering his weight issues, considering his health issues, and considering the fact that he doesn't want to play in New Orleans any longer, I would trade him right now for a bevy of player and draft assets. I would rebuild and just hit the reset button right now because there is no way that Zion Williamson signs a long-term deal with the New Orleans Pelicans. So bank on the fact that he might not be healthy or might not be the same player moving forward. Get rid of him right now. Hit the reset button. Start that rebuild. Get some really good draft assets back and some very good players, because I do think that there are teams out there that will mortgage the farm for the potential upside of Zion Williamson, because when he's healthy, and that's not often, he is one of the most dangerous players in the NBA. As for Brandon Ingram, why do I think it would be a good fit on the Philadelphia 76ers. He's a really good player who, when he is engaged, is also very good on the defensive end of the floor. Offensively, he can really score at all three levels, and you can rely on him to get buckets down the stretch. 23.5 points per game, little more than 6 rebounds. He's shooting around 45% from the floor, right on the dot, and 36% from distance. And there is a lot of volume there, and I do think that his on-court fit alongside Joel Embiid would be pretty intriguing. There's also this, one of my last points here. Sending Ben Simmons to the New Orleans Pelicans in front of a fan base that doesn't care would be absolutely hilarious. Let his career go in a downward trajectory in front of a fan base and a market that just doesn't care about basketball. I think within the next 5 to 10 years, there is not going to be a team in New Orleans any longer. And if I'm ownership, I'm looking at different locations across America. I'm looking at Las Vegas. I'm looking at Nashville. I'm looking at other places to send the Pelicans to. Maybe even Seattle, because taking the Supersonics away from the Pacific Northwest, an absolute crime. Ben Simmons has folded in front of the pressure in Philadelphia. And now, hey, Ben, we'll send you packing to an awful team where nobody cares about what you or the team are doing. That's what you get for being an absolute flake. So would you be cool with Brandon Ingram being traded to the Sixers for Big Baby Ben? I'm not having these trade conversations if I'm Daryl Morey unless it includes Brandon Ingram. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Be sure to get those votes in the comments section, and give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. And if you tweet me either at Chase_Senior or DM me on Instagram at the same handle, I will put your username on the show and give you a shout out. Grew up in the Dub C Westchester. Shout out to the 6'10", the 4'84". Went to college in Philadelphia, Temple University. So shout out to the 215 as well. Love covering this team. Love covering the Sixers here on 76ers Now. We're the fastest growing 76ers channel on YouTube, by the way. So hit that red subscribe button down below and join the family here at Chat Sports as we continue to talk shop.